you're working on a new album, right?
Yeah, sorta.
Could you tell us more about it?
No, I cannot.
Okay. Okay.
All I can say is that I'm always writing.
Okay.
I'm always writing, and I have lots of new compositions, and I eventually will get them recorded somehow. But I can also tell you that it's really difficult in the climate that we live in now. It's kind of like hard to get the motivation to record anything because everything's free. You don't make any money from making records anymore. You know, the record company is sort of almost obsolete now. It's like, what do? You know, everything, you go on the internet and get everything free. You make a record, it leaks out, and everybody gets it for free. So it's like, you know, we're forced to be able to just we have to make our living playing live. And if you ask me, it's better live anyway.
For us, it's better too, but...
Yeah. But it's good to have something at home that you can, you know, listen to. But how do you get it? I mean, I would say this to the consumer. If you guys want us to make records, then you got to stop getting them for free. Pay for it. It's only like $10. You spend more than that on your shoes.
It's a problem with these streaming services. Yes, it's a big problem.
I had somebody come up to me last night. I guess I could say it was a friend, but not a real friend. But somebody who I hadn't seen in a while was like, "Hey, you remember I met you in blah, 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 blah." She was standing there with her boyfriend, and then she goes, "Well, can you put me on the guest list?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" The owner was standing there. I was like, "Hey, can you put them on the guest list? They're too cheap to buy tickets to see me." But it's like, come on. Sometimes it's just a matter of like $5-10, maybe 20. You know, it's not that expensive. And we have to make a living. So it's like people got to stop getting stuff for free on the internet all the time.
What shall we expect from your concert here tomorrow?
Oh, man, I got a great band. My band is amazing. Great musicians. The saxophone player is one of my colleagues from back in the day. We used to hang out at the jam sessions in New York when I had just moved there. He's a real New York guy. He's from Queens, and his name's Justin Robinson. And I have to say, him and his crew are guys that really are responsible for introducing me into the New York scene. You know, the other guys in the band are all younger guys. The bass player and drummer are both from Washington, D.C., which I always say, this is a great rhythm town. You know, for some reason, all the guys I know from D.C., they got that special rhythm thing. And I don't know what it comes from, but maybe it's just kind of like a way of life or whatever. But they all got strong rhythm, you know. And I heard them both playing together at this club. One of my friends from high school was hanging out there, and he called me up and was like, "Man, you got to get down here and hear these guys. They are swinging like grown people." So I was just like, okay. So I came down there, and they were killing. So I was just like, immediately, you know, I called my manager and was like, "Man, I have heard the rhythm section. That is the way of the future." Because like, especially with jazz, it's very difficult to find players that will still give it that beat that is danceable. And these guys with that strong rhythm that they have gives it a beat that's danceable, you know, and that brings people in. They understand. Most people say, "Oh, I don't like jazz, you know, it's a lot of noise and it doesn't have a beat to it, you know." But these guys bring that back to it, you know. Amin Salim and Quincy Phillips. And my pianist is like a young prodigy from New Orleans, and I don't know what they feed people out there, but every musician I know from New Orleans is wow. I mean, really, like incredible players, especially the pianists. I mean, he's the most complete piano player that I know of his age group. I mean, there's no song that he doesn't know. And he has great ear training. He could hear everything. Anything you play for him, he's able to hear it. You know, And I mean, he's been winning all of these awards. Actually, he just started teaching at Oberlin, where he went to school. So yeah, these guys are really incredible. You put them all together, and it makes for a very exciting show. Everywhere we go, people are just they're converted.
I'm sure. The piano player Larry Willis told you, if you take care of music, the music will take care of you.
That is right.
How do you take care of music? What are the principles that you are following and the philosophy you believe in?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure what he meant by that is that you remain diligent in your study of music, meaning that you're always in a position of learning. And also, you know, that when you play, every time you get on the bandstand, you give your all. You give your 150% every time. You know, you play in like it's your last time ever. You know, I think it really has much to do with that, about, you know, just giving everything you have to what you do. You know, and people can really relate to that and understand it. And if they're in tune with you, then they know you're doing that, you know. And I think that that's something that just sort of builds your integrity as a person. And that's why he told me that. That's why he told me, you take care of the music, take care of you. You know, like people spend a lot of time trying to get rich and trying to do these things. And I think that, you know, if you really give to your art, then you don't have to want for things. They just kind of come to you. You get lots of gifts from people. Like today I got a great gift. My friend got me some bow ties, and I'm like a bow tie expert.
Okay.
You know, so things like that happen, and you're like, okay, I understand. Yeah.
According to Nielsen's 2014 year-end report, jazz is continuing to fall out of favor with American listeners and has tied with classical music as the least consumed music in the US after children's music. How would you comment?
Damn. Well, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's always been that way since I started playing jazz. You know, I think that people... I mean, actually, you know what? I'll put it like this. When I first started playing professionally, there were a lot more people around. And I think that's just because there were a lot more musicians around that were actually playing the music the way it should be played. My theory on that is because the musicians are not really paying attention to what they need to do to be able to get it across. Because, what can I say? Like, a lot of times people get afraid and they want to try to get a core audience, so they change the music into something that's a little bit more contemporary. And a lot of times it ends up becoming watered down. Not all the time, but a lot of times it becomes watered down. And I think that whatever you do, you should deal with it in its core. You know, I would say like this: there are lots of music schools now, and there are teachers there that are skipping a whole era of what they should be teaching them. You know, because I would have to say this: like a lot of musicians from like the 1940s into the 50s and sort of early 60s, most of them, you know, sort of had a cutoff early. A lot of them died young, but there was a lot to be said about taking up where they left off. And also, the music that people like Charlie Parker, Thelonious Monk, and Bud Powell and these guys, the music that they created is the fabric of what it takes to really, you know, have the knowledge to be able to get it across to people. And so a lot of this is being ignored because it's such a vast world. It's such a vast world. It's like opening the door to a library that's just filled with books. You don't know where to start. You know, so most people open that door look at all that shit in there and close the door right back and keep moving. Because, it's a lot easier to go into your, if you have a niche or something that people like and everybody says, oh, you sound good. And then you just get comfortable with that. But you always have to remain in a situation where you're learning. And I think it has the reason why it falls out of favor with people is because it's not really being done the way it should. Because if it's being done right, it can't be denied at all. It's like the most pure form of expression, and anybody can see that. There's no electronic, it's all acoustic, and it's so spiritual when it comes across in the right way. And I mean, a person that knows nothing about music can understand that and feel that. I know because I've experienced it myself on the bandstand. I'll go and play somewhere, and if I play a ballad or something really beautiful and slow, people always respond. They always say to me, they say, yeah, well, that was cool, but when you played that ballad, that's what I like, So there's always something. That's the other thing. There's always something for people in jazz. There's always something that you can, people can relate to. But I think it has a lot. The biggest problem is that our, next generation of players, they don't know. They don't have anything to grab onto. Actually, with the technology being the way it is. You have one artist and you hit the button and you get his whole life. Instead of me, when I started learning about jazz, I would buy an album and listen to one song over and over. It's a big difference between that and having a whole discography of something. And then, it's like, okay, you see it sitting there, it's collecting dust, and you don't know which way to go with it, You don't have anything to cherish.
What would you say to people who don't know anything about jazz and somehow they are afraid of it? Because there is that kind of attitude in our society, I think so.
Yeah, don't be afraid, man. It's beautiful, I mean, it's not even something that... I don't even like calling it jazz. It's music, and... what gives it the title jazz, I guess, is because of the improvisational element that's involved. But there's improvisation in all forms of music. And I think that its most challenging one is knowing as much harmony and rhythm and melody that you can know. And once you have those tools there, you can play any style you want. It doesn't even matter. You can go country western, you can even go classical. If you have it in your head to be able to, recreate that sound that you have in your head. It doesn't even really matter. I would say that I would tell people that have that fear, it's just like, man, buy an album. Buy the album John Coltrane Ballads. And that will eliminate your fear. John Coltrane Ballads.
Okay, and one more question. How do you feel right now about your career, about your musical journey? How does your experience affect your music?
My experience is my music, really. That's what it is. I mean, you go through life and then and what you play has to do with what you experience in your life,